So welcome to another wargame review from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today we're taking a look, finally, at Talon from GMT Games. And it's a game designed by Jim Crone. And he did Space Empires 4X. And there was something else he did as well, which I shamefully have forgotten.
Yeah.
But I read him and was like, oh wow, he did that. But yeah.
Yeah.
This is set in the same universe as Space Empires 4X, but it's entirely different.
Right.
This is it is a capital ship tactical game. You're flying cruisers, destroyers, battleships, starbases, dreadnoughts, all these kind of big, heavy ships.
Slow turning.
Very sluggish.
Be prepared for that. You have to do some
spaceships.
Calculations.
And it's I'm charging up my banks of phasers. I'm shooting you in your shields. Yep. You know, all this kind of stuff. But it's all done on a fairly plain star field that's a hex grid. It's large hexes, and each of the ships they're like a big hex. These are huge. And the nice thing with this is it feels like a miniatures game to me.
Yeah.
But it's not miniatures. No. So
we kept saying to ourselves, "Oh, it's kind of like X-Wing." But when you fly off the edge of the map, you don't blow up.
It's more like Armada in that sense.
Well, yeah.
Do you remember flying those Star Destroyers?
Oh, absolutely.
And you're like, turn left!
I can't turn!
And 3 turns later, you turn left, and you're like,
oh, yeah.
This is very much like the feel of that.
Yeah.
Gameplay-wise, it's quite different, but
right.
It's the feel of trying to get the Starship Enterprise to turn left.
Yeah.
And it's just this huge ship. Yeah. And there's something called a power curve in this game. And it's
which is probably the most important concept to understand in order to be good at this game.
Yeah, and that's where the learning curve is in the power curve. Because it's how much power do I put into going very fast and speed versus how much do I put into putting power into the shields and the weapons.
Yep.
And if I put a lot of power into speed, that affects my turn radius, how fast I can turn because of the inertia, and you're going to have a much wider turning arc, which is a huge deal in a game where this is a game of positioning. That's really what it is. Yeah. Positioning and timing.
Yeah.
So there's the rule book, not that long. I think it's like 10, 15 pages. The rules are fairly easy to pick up, but mastering those rules is the big challenge.
So I would agree with you that they're easy to pick up once you've played.
Yes.
Because I remember our first play, we were kind of like, I kept going through my mind, what does a 4-2-1 mean? What is a... Yeah. And it's that power curve, but it's trying to understand those concepts. I don't believe the concepts are hard. I think mastering them in order to use them to your advantages, there is a big learning curve.
Yeah, like we played this, and there are times at which I'm still like, should I move my power curve?
Yeah. And I think
times where I don't know if that's tactically a good thing to do.
Right.
And then you do it, and then you play the next time, you're like, oh, that was so dumb. Why did I do that?
Right. Well, and the big thing with the power curve, and we could show you the close-up of the impulse track. Depending on what power curve you selected, you're only going to move what's the minimum?
If you have a
2 or 3 times
movement, you're going to move
one time
at a time.
If you have a 2 movement, you're going to move 2 times. Well, 3 is a 3, so yeah,
4, 5.
Yeah, there you go. So that's simple, but you really have to look at that and look at the situation and understand how many times do I really want to be moving,
and the timing of those moves is very important too. Because if you have like a 3 movement value, you're going to move 3 times in a turn that has 6 phases. Well, that's great. But on the first impulse is what they're called. You don't get to.
No.
You're doing basically it's B, D, and F because they're letters. It's effectively 2, 4, and 6. And so you're like, well, do I risk bumping it to a 4? Because then I can move on the first, second, fourth, and 6th impulse. And that first impulse might be really important for you to do a move to get out of dodge or to get into a good position.
Yeah.
But then, once you start increasing your speed like that, if you need to turn, all of a sudden you're kind of...
You can't turn until you finish your move.
Gosh.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of nuance in, is it worth this, is it not? And the reality is in this game, like in a game like X-Wing, your fighters are quite nimble. You can move and dodge. This one, it's like, You're going to get shot at.
Yeah.
You're going to take a ton of damage. It's like, can I move into a decent formation, then just like blow everyone away?
Yeah.
And can I kind of weather the storm and not die as much? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of firing on here.
So I think this game, what it boils down to me is it really rewards being able to visually conceptualize the battle space and understand, and it's hard to remember, but understand what you're trying to do and then to anticipate that. So if you can get good at that and understand what he can and cannot do, I think you're going to be able to capitalize more. And I'll use a couple of examples. There were some times during the end of the game, I would look at your ships, understanding your right side weapons were unfireable because you had
I'd already
shot them and you weren't going to be able to recharge them for at least
for a certain number of turns,
4 or 5 impulses. So I had to really think about that. How am I going to get into position to, one, not be fired on because my ships were all basically shot to hell, but then also bring my weapons to bear. And it's also interesting, your weapons were slower charging. They required more power. They actually charged 2 times a round, right?
So I had my power curve was, I got more power typically, obviously, but I had fewer of those red passive charging boxes.
Right.
So I felt like my weapons it was
charging.
Easier for me to do. Sure. It was an interesting.
But they took a lot. Because it took like 5 boxes. But my point in that is you really have to play off what your opponent has been doing. And there were times where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to protect myself. I'm going to put a shield on that side because I know we're coming alongside each other for a broadside. I'm going to put a temporary shield, or whatever it was called, on there, a shield reinforcement, to make it so that I could absorb or take one more hit. But really, I really liked the back and forth. I really felt like it was a nice chess match.
Yeah, and we played, because a lot of the scenarios, some of them, it's like, pick an even number of points and kind of play
build your armada.
Or there's a whole bunch of scenarios that kind of form a campaign, which has some knock-on effects, also very cool. But ours, we played some very even matches where it was like, we'll just do some cruises against cruises. Kind of boring, but like,
we learned the
it's
system.
Evenly matched. And you won that, but the reality is you had 4 hull points left between your 2 ships.
My 2 ships were almost,
and
mine
both died, and yours were like so close to death.
Yeah.
And that to me is a best balanced game.
Right. Well, and I would say that I think both of your ships died, not the second one. That first one died because of a critical hit. You rolled on a 2d6, you rolled a 2, boxcars, or I'm sorry, snake eyes. And that was the whole explosion, 3 more damage, which took you out.
Yeah.
Which that would have probably, had that not happened, you would have stuck around for at least 1 more round, maybe 2.
He wasn't doing much anyway.
Right.
He was in bad shape.
So I did like the critical rolls. I thought the critical damage table was pretty interesting. You could do things like lose power, take extra hull damage. What were the other ones?
Yeah.
Ship destroyed if you roll boxcars.
Yeah.
You're blown up.
Like instant death.
So I liked that element of it, and that was kind of something that you couldn't really plan on. But you know what happened? And it's like, oh, cool! I just hit his. My little missile went through his.
Yeah, it's like
very important port and blew up. So that was very cool. But the sides are definitely asymmetric.
Yes.
In their abilities. So talk about that a little bit.
So even though I had cruisers and you had cruisers, I played as the Talon, and they have these kind of. They're called disruptors, and my weapon banks I had two disruptors, and it took a decent amount of time to charge those.
Yes.
And when I would roll, you roll basically roll on a table based on your range. That's how much damage you do. You had a totally different array of weapons on your cruisers.
Right. Faster charging.
Yeah, 2 kind of much smaller phases with a much shorter range, frankly, but they charged very quickly. And then you also had antimatter torpedoes. Presumably they couldn't use photon torpedoes.
Right.
But
trademarked.
But those had a very long recharge rate.
Yes.
Because that was red passive. Once you two full
reds.
rounds, and then you've got to invest some energy in it as well.
Yeah.
But those were very, very strong. What you would get through,
4 hits,
you do
4 damage,
4 or 5 damage on them. And if you were at a very close range, you didn't even need to roll. You're just like bang, just do it. But
it says not applicable.
Yeah,
no need to roll.
No die roll. Just do it.
Just do 4 damage.
And then on top of all that, the Talon, the humans, have a special ability in this one where some of their ships have like a battery symbol on it. It's basically like they can charge their batteries, and you can normally you get your power based on the impulses. Oh, my little ship triggers, I get power. I can use that to charge a weapon, make a special move, reinforce my shields, do some bits and pieces. Or the Terrans can literally charge a battery.
Right. On a round that they're not receiving a battery power, typically, right?
To use it on a round.
To use it on a round,
yeah. So normally, then, later on in the game, that ship might be like, oh, I can't normally get a power this turn, but I desperately need one.
So
I've got my battery.
Yep.
Good job, I can use it then.
Yep.
Now, the Talon don't have that ability, or don't have any access to it at all. But some of their ships have afterburners, which, as you might imagine, they allow you to move on a turn when you couldn't normally move.
So very similar to the battery. You can use the battery on a turn you don't get a battery power,
Yes.
and the what are yours called again?
Afterburners.
Afterburners you could use on a turn you normally couldn't move.
And
which is cool.
Even those are different, right? The Terran ships have one battery. You only use it once, it's gone. You have to recharge it on a subsequent round to then use it again on a different impulse. The Talon afterburners, the ships that have them usually have 2.
Yep.
And they're one shots because it is quite powerful. But
it was very powerful one time. I think you literally moved out of my range and I couldn't do any damage. I was like, crap.
Or I'd use it to if I had long turn radius for those.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, on turns I couldn't. Let's get that over with so I can make my turn a bit tighter.
And get back into combat.
Yeah, so even though the differences seem minor on the surface, they're there. Gives you some different flavor.
Well, and even the number of shields was different. I had less shields in some areas than you, but more in some other areas. So I thought that was important.
And you had fewer hull points. I had more hull points.
Yep, but you had more critical hits, which is it's a trade-off. But I appreciate that the game is like that because it doesn't feel like you're just literally fighting each other with the same style of ships.
Yeah. Now, a lot of them, it's like, oh, here's my destroyer, here's your destroyer. The 2 destroyers are different. There's even some, the Terran have fighters and carriers. The Talon don't have those at all. They have, dreadnoughts, though, incredibly heavy ships.
Yeah.
So they're just different forces that you can array whilst not being insanely complex.
Right. Well, it adds a lot of variety. I think you could play this game dozens of times and really have a different experience every time.
Yeah, and then you get into playing competitively. Mm-hmm. They do tournaments of this kind of game. It's just a very replayable game, just fun, just moving guys around, shooting it. And I like that it is not a miniatures game because the price point's quite accessible.
Right.
Here you get everything in the box, 1 billion ships to play with, all the scenarios, and it's how much it retails for?
$65 or $70 because it does have a lot of cardboard and a lot of big boards.
Yeah.
So
that's nice because I play Armada, I love it, but it's so expensive.
Yeah.
And I haven't bought any for ages because I'm like, I can't justify $25 for a single miniature.
Well, and because we only play that once in a great while.
Right, but just the price on those just escalates with miniatures. And here I love that here's a miniatures game, but it's not a miniatures game.
Yep.
And I appreciate that. I love the sci-fi theme.
Yeah.
People say that this is similar. It has a lot of similarities to a very old game called Starfleet Battles.
Yeah, I've seen that many times, yeah.
And I think they're specifically referring to the way the impulses work.
Okay.
I think the power curve thing's quite different, but it's how many impulses in a turn and who moves what and where. I believe that's got some similarity to it. So if that's a game that you have liked back in the day, check this one out. I think that's usually people say that's a pretty good one.
One of the things that's really unique about this game is the marker system. You literally have a dry erase marker. The game came with 2, and they weren't the best markers.
No.
They did not work very well for us.
Yeah.
But you literally mark you mark your damage and your energy. You track it right on the counter, and it's very cool.
And they have in the game like a paper sheet that you can do this instead. But if you can get some good dry erase markers, you just mark it all off. Makes it bookkeeping is right here.
Yeah.
It's really, really quick. Now the markers, they wipe off great. They just clean up. No problems with that. Getting the ink onto the counters was hard.
Yeah.
The
just
markers
wouldn't go
that came
on.
were just like, the ink didn't come out, or they were kind of dry. So,
and we even tried to take the marker, and I think we wiped it on a paper towel, thinking that there was something on there, but it just never really changed.
So I'm gonna invest in some
nice
premium dry erase markers, and hopefully, and ones that have like a little eraser on them or something.
Yeah, so you're not having a big paper towel that was unwieldy.
Looks like we've been blowing our noses, but you just kind of
have to wipe them off.
You have to wipe out the weapons when you use them, things like that. So,
but having the ones that had the little built-in eraser would be
if you get a nice fine tip that get the ink flowed out of, you'd have a great time with those.
Yeah,
because it is fun doing all that stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was very, very unique, very cool,
and it keeps bookkeeping down, which I appreciate.
Yeah,
you don't have to have all the sheets of paper out. It's just done.
Right.
So all in all, I had a blast playing this. This game's right up my alley.
Really enjoyed it. One, I don't know that I'm ever going to turn down a good space themed game. I'm just not going to turn it down. We've played 4X. We've played Pick Up and Deliver. We just like that sci-fi space concept. We love Space Empires. One of our favorite games.
And you can play this with Space Empires.
You can
combine the two.
I did not know that.
So
you do the combat with this stuff.
So
that would be fun.
As fun as that sounds, a game of this is how long?
Oh, it was very long. We played for about 2 hours.
So every combat you do in Space Empires, all of those pieces correlate to pieces in this game.
There you go.
And you literally array them how they were.
Okay.
And that's who's in the battle, and you fight.
Yeah, I think for Space Empires, I think the beauty of that one is you get the feeling of the fight and the taste of the fight, but it's over
you do your dice chucking. So but that was something that I was
because that game's more about the economy and the hidden movement and
and interesting. It would be a lifetime to play.
Oh my gosh, you would have to play for a month.
At least the way we play, where we do a ton of combat.
We're slow, and we attack each other every chance we get.
They're like, that's what the game modes. So if you wanted to have both games set up, and you had a partner that you played with all the time, and you wanted to invest that'd be pretty fun.
Yeah.
That was pretty epic to say that you had done that.
I would think that would be very fun. Well, and we've also talked about combining Space Empires. We both have a set. It would be awesome to combine them both and do the huge map.
Do like the 8 players.
Yeah, that would be incredible. But
so that's Talon. There is an expansion for it, which we'll do separately, because that has a full solitaire game with solitaire pieces and a whole system, a whole rule book of its own. Introduces a ton of other new pieces as well.
New ships, new types of things.
Yeah, and then it has a whole other campaign as well, because this has its own campaign mode with a bunch of linked missions. Talon 1000 is what the expansion is called, has a whole lot of more stuff in it as well. So that's coming up soon. I had a great time playing this one.
I would have to, I think we've said it already, but I would agree. Really fun. I had a fun time.
There's a ton of videos out there that explain the rules.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to show you those.
Because this is an older game. This is just a reprint.
Yeah. This is just, my opinion is, I had fun playing this.
Yep.
And it's a great value buy-in for a game that is effectively a miniatures game.
Agree.
And that's just me. And they did a really good job making it easy to learn, but very hard to master.
I think that's exactly what I would say about this game. You're not going to play this once or twice or even 3 times and feel like you understand exactly how to do what you need to do.
You might think, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing, but as soon as you throw in a carrier with fighters, you're now like, oh, okay, these are very, very different in how they operate.
Well, fighters, it's so they attack all the time.
They move all the time. They're very weak though, right?
Well, yeah, they're not going to do much damage.
But then you're like, oh, I've got all these hulking battleships, and they're just getting peppered left, right, and center.
Yeah.
Just the tactics from the various ship types. There's endless things you can do, and some of the backs of these have terrain on them. You put out asteroid clusters and
poison gas clouds.
I mean, there's just so much. When I opened it, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much in here, which is very exciting, and a game that gives you your money's worth. So that's something that I'm like, makes it a good recommendation for me, because you get a ton in this box, and it's not like a ton of superfluous stuff. It's stuff you'll actually use and enjoy if you like this kind of game. So Appreciate you guys tuning in. This has been Talon, just the base game from GMT. And I've been Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
From theplayers8.com.